coming out the gate really having an idea of what is going to make you the signal through the noise, because there's more and more noise out
I like
there.
that phrase, the signal through the noise. Hello, I'm Marcus Freed. Welcome to the Freedthinker podcast. This is where we talk to business owners and thought leaders, look at cutting edge marketing techniques, what's working in today's business climate, how to market on a shoestring, and find out essential skills to get heard above the noise of the competition. I run Freedthinking, which is a growth marketing agency based in London and Los Angeles, and I'm delighted to welcome today's guest. Ron Dawson is a brand and content marketing strategist who runs Blade Runner Media. He also leads the brand and content marketing for HubSpot for startups. Prior to those roles, he was the senior content marketing manager for Frame.io, now owned by Adobe. He has a background in branding, marketing, business development, finance, social media, and media production. Ron has worked extensively in the video industry, where he ran his own video production agency for over 2 decades. During that time, he hosted and produced a number of podcasts, including the critically acclaimed Radio Film School. Ron lives in Los Angeles. Hello, Ron.
Hey, Marcus, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being on. Thank you for being on. I appreciate it. Now, we've been working together for about 3 years now through We Make Movies with Blade Runner Media and various clients of yours. And so what I'd love to just hear from you to start off with is, what do you currently think is working in the world of marketing? What are you seeing, the positives, what's buzzing, what's happening?
I mean, I think the things that are working, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I think content marketing, the kind of marketing that really leads towards what's called inbound marketing. So there's outbound marketing, there's inbound marketing. Outbound marketing is where you're reaching out to people, you're sending emails, you're getting people to come to you. Inbound marketing are things like blogging, where you're creating content that's getting people to come to you. And I think inbound marketing continues to be a key part of any company's marketing strategy, mainly because of the fact that it can tend to, I mean, marketing in general is an investment any company needs to make, but inbound marketing is the kind where you can start with little to no investment. If you can put up a blog and you can write a lot, you can start doing inbound marketing. If you can create content that makes people want to come and check out your site, you can do that. And so I think that aspect of marketing is something that's working really well. In the past few years, we've seen a rise in influencer marketing, to the point where you now have agencies that are dedicated to finding and hiring and representing TikTokers, Instagram artists, YouTubers who are doing well and growing their own audience. And so there's been an ability for the average Jane and Joe to go out and become a quote unquote celebrity and earn money. In fact, TikTok now has an ability where even if you have a relatively small audience, I have like a little over 12,000 followers. Someone with as little as 12,000 followers, 10,000 followers could participate in like in a TikTok program that will allow you to have brands throw you some, coffee change every month.
Which is great,
and
but
obviously
10 to 12,000 followers, that's still quite a few followers. Let's say
it is a lot. It is a lot.
someone just starts up, like there is that question of how you actually get there. So why don't we just spend a minute or so, like what are some fast strategies? Because I want to come back to the content marketing. What are some fast strategies to boost your TikTok following? Let's say for a small business, local photographer, local plumber, local computer IT support. How are they going to boost their TikTok to a decent amount?
Yeah. Number one thing with TikTok is, one, doing it, just break out and do it, and then consistency. I can't tell you how important consistency is. I would say, like, if you really wanted to grow at a significant clip, I would recommend posting at least twice, if not more, per day, kind of spread it out over a number of hours. A lot of people you may see a lot of reports out there that will say the best times there's no quote unquote best time, honestly.
No.
Like, I posted things at 10 o'clock at night, my time, that blow up. I wake up in the morning, it has thousands of views, and I've posted things.
It's already 6 a.m. over here. That's the thing. I'm in England.
Yeah, right. So depending on, now most of my followers are in the US. So posting multiple times per day, being consistent, it doesn't have to be pretty. In fact, on TikTok, if it's too pretty, it kind of can work against you. Like if it looks too polished.
Right.
So one of the most viral videos I did, I just pulled out a phone. I didn't plan it. I shot something and got like over 250,000 views.
See,
And so,
that's really interesting, Ron, because
yeah,
we've both got a big background, a lot of experience in video editing. I'm in
yeah,
Final Cut Pro. You've been in what, Final Cut Pro,
Final
Adobe.
Cut Pro, yeah,
Okay, and you'll work with Frame.io, which is a brilliant, brilliant platform I'm using almost every day while I'm working on a couple of short films. Um, it takes a long time to get our videos edited to a standard that we want.
yeah.
However, with TikTok, you're saying it's still working. I mean, they've got the CapCut app,
I
which
use CapCut
really
to
well.
edit my TikTok videos. Yeah,
But some people put a ton of work into it. So it's interesting, this choice of, from the business marketing perspective, where do you go high production value? Where do you go low production value for the value of
right.
regular content?
Yeah. So, back to your question in terms of like being able to be successful on a platform like TikTok specifically, consistency, just doing it. And you're going to hear different ideas about whether or not, different thoughts about whether or not you should have a niche. Personally, I think you should. I think most people on there have a niche, whereas like there's a particular topic or a few topics that you really focus on. There are some TikTokers who go all over the place. Like anyone who's really going to follow you, they're going to follow you because there's something you do or some expertise you have that they want to take advantage of. And I think being able to have that niche really helps. So like if you are a photographer, what kind of photography do you do? If you are a filmmaker, what kind of films do you do? And then you need to determine, if you're a photographer or a filmmaker, are you trying to market to other photographers and filmmakers, or are you trying to market to people who are your potential clients? And that will determine the kind of content you make, because one is going to be different than the other.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah. I'm thinking as well, the how much of it is fool's gold, in that the idea of, okay, 12,000 followers, if you're getting a brand partnership, you've got your coffee money, you've got your income, you've got your 100,000, you've got your Kardashian level. Great. So then
Right.
you've got different levels. However, from a small business perspective, or even a medium-sized business perspective, there is the issue of the brand presence being out there. But I
Yeah.
also think about, well, when I used to teach yoga, I was teaching a class in LA, and there was a time when I ran this lunchtime class, a trial one in West LA, and two people were coming along. Then one person was coming along. Then I just shut the class down. But then he gives me a call, this one person who came along randomly, who found me online. And then he started flying me out to England and paying me, like, at the time, £500 a day consultancy rate, which was
Wow. Yeah.
kind of crazy. And that carried on for a couple of years, not every day. But so there is, you don't, it's an art and it's a science, and we don't know. So it's not all about the followers.
Yeah. You never know who's going to find you. And it's the kind of thing, it's like baby steps. The start of any long journey, journey of 10,000 miles starts with those few steps. So, you got to just start doing it and be consistent with it. And I think if you're going to use social media as part of your marketing mix, you really should do it across all social media. TikTok, Twitter is kind of a hot mess right now, but there are definitely other aspects of social media that you should be taking advantage of. Stay up to date on it. Understand the different types of content that works best. A lot of people will create one piece of content and then have it be the same across all. And sometimes, I mean, to be honest, that's what I do. But I kind of am doing it for fun. I'm not using it for my business. But if you are using it for your business, it makes sense to really tailor make each piece of content for that social media.
But it's different. I mean, the hours in the day. So I'm thinking, like, okay, let's say we take this video, this particular interview. There'll be the long form horizontal
Right.
version for YouTube, maybe Rumble, LinkedIn. Then there's going to be the short form vertical cuts, which my
Right.
boss is going to work on. But then I could be putting those out, say the vertical on TikTok, Facebook reel, sort of stories, YouTube reels, Instagram reels. There are only so many hours in the day, and you want to keep
Hmm.
creating content. And one thing, Gary, I mean, I'd be interested to know what you think of this. One thing, say, I think partly the Gary V influence is,
Yeah.
I'll find if I'm putting something up, I might have the same piece of content, but I will phrase it differently for LinkedIn as opposed to Instagram,
Oh
or
yeah. For sure.
my personal Instagram versus my Freedthinking Instagram. So it's kind of, the words, the context is different. I don't, what do you make of that?
Yeah, no, I think it depends on the kind of content it is. If it's something that you're creating originally for the social media piece, or if it's something where you like this, where it's an interview you already have, and you're going to be chopping it up. And so, one of the things to keep in mind is you can take, like, say, a piece of video and then use it across different pieces of platform. And the only tweaks you may need to change are the aspect ratio or something like that. Um, but one of the things you want to keep in mind, for instance, is like, so on TikTok, there's all these code words you have to use because so you don't flag the community guidelines or get your so certain like the certain
Like
things,
what? Like what are the examples?
like, for instance, people say unalive instead of kill or murder. They'll say
They say
grape
what? Sorry, it's to say unalive. Did you say
unalive
unalive? Okay.
instead of or instead of murder. They'll say grape instead of rape. They'll say um uh they'll pick a word that rhymes with something, because TikTok is weird. TikTok can be a very frustrating app. They're always changing things, but your video can be suppressed if there's certain content in it that TikTok or the TikTok algorithm gods determine isn't really great. So you have all these code words. And I remember one time posting a video on Instagram that I posted on TikTok, and one of my friends was asking me, why am I saying all these weird things? And I've seen other TikTokers who post their stuff on Instagram, and people who aren't used to TikTok confused that, well, why are you doing this on Instagram? Like, why are you, like, one thing that's popular on TikTok is just putting words on the screen to music and you're just looking into the distance. And that's very popular and common on TikTok, maybe not so much on Instagram. So some people get confused, like, why are you doing that? So those are the kind of things where if you can really tailor make it for the particular social media, that's ideal. If you can't, just do the best you can. And eventually, if it's something like what we're doing here and you're just chopping it up, it can really work anywhere. But then you just want to
And
be
this
mindful.
is stuff which all businesses can use in different ways, but it's also not
Right.
overwhelmed. I think the key thing as well is do something. Like figure out what your
Yeah,
business is.
definitely.
Just start on one
It
platform.
started. And that's
And
what I
what
think Gary Vee talks about too. It's like, just start doing it.
Yeah, and one thing we both do with our businesses, so with Blade Runner, in terms of the content based pieces, it's getting you're doing it on behalf of clients, whether it's OWC or film
Right.
supply. What I'm doing with Freed Thinking, and then there is obviously crossover because I do copywriting for you, but
Yeah.
that which I love. It's really interesting. Or I'm shooting videos and running social accounts on behalf of clients. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just picking one thing. Can we loop back to the content marketing? I
Yeah.
love it so far. We've basically done one question on my list of 5, but this is the important question of what's
Yeah.
currently happening. So inbound marketing, having spent years doing cold calls and the training on the Grant Cardone and the Sandler method and lots of other things, but picking up the phone, and it works, but it ain't so
Yeah.
much fun. It's more fun making content.
Yeah.
Inbound marketing. So now, for example, let's say you look up your list of keywords on whatever's trending, Google Trends, or I guess HubSpot, or
Yeah.
SEMrush, whatever it happens to be. So you get your list of SEO keywords. You then create an article around it. You pay your $20. Use ChatGPT 4, run it through, get something basic up, then take it out of ChatGPT, rewrite it in your own words, stick it,
Hmm.
or don't rewrite it and just top and tail it pretty quickly and do it. How much is that working right now for SEO? Are you familiar? I know this is a very specialist question, so not to put you on the spot, but is Google flagging, like, are the SEO crawlers, the spiders figuring out, no, this is just a ChatGPT for content? Is this something which has it passed its moment? Like how are we dealing with this right now? What's it looking like?
Yeah. So, one thing I would advise is, if you're going to use AI to write something like a blog post, there are prompts you can give the AI to make sure, like, don't use any headlines that have already been used. So, for instance, I was writing a blog post for a client, and to get me going, I did exactly what you said. I said, write a blog post about the strikes in LA and which productions are allowed, just to get it going. And I kind of use that just to get the brain juices going. But just out of curiosity, like, I Googled the headline that Chat GPT created, And I found the article I pulled it from, it was almost word for word the same headline. And the opening paragraph that ChatGPT gave me was about 60% of the opening paragraph of this one thing. Now, I didn't tell it to not pull anything. So it's pulling from. And so you need to be careful if you use something like that to make sure that, I would say, test it to make sure how much of this other thing that it's pulling from, really use it just to get their brain cells going. There are other programs like Jasper, which I think are a little bit more tailored to give you content that is not going to be as plagiarizing. But back to your question about Google, Google is not going to flag anything like that.
I
One of
mean,
the
but
misconceptions.
is it going to not work? That's what I mean. Like, is it, or it's
What do you
just,
mean by work? Like, is it not going to?
well,
Is it?
we want high-ranking SEO stuff. So people, let's say take the OWC, Other World Computing, for those who are watching, which is hopefully a fair few people. So they want stuff which is going to potential Apple purchasers, Mac users. They want stuff which is going to rank highly, so people are going to land up on their site and then purchase.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that go into whether or not something can rank. And so one misconception about content marketing that people have is this thing called duplicate content. Like if you have something that's the same one thing, that Google is going to penalize you. Google does not penalize you for having duplicate content. What can happen is if it sees two things which are identical, it needs to determine which one to rank higher. And so if it's usually going to give it's usually going to rank higher the one that is on a site that has a higher domain authority, or there may be some aspect of that site that makes it rank higher. But you can have two pieces of content that are very similar, and one can rank number 2 and yours might rank number 3. So duplicate content in and of itself like doesn't penalize you. That's for one. But in terms of whether or not it works, like so for instance, you brought up OWC. For them and for a lot of other companies, knowing that there's a lot of AI out there that people are using, if you want your content to stand out, you don't want it to sound like it came out of Chat GPT. And people, particularly if you're writing for an industry where there are experts, when they're reading, they can read between the lines. They know there's certain nuances that they're going to pick up on to tell if the person writing this knows what they're talking about, or if they just use Chat GPT to fill it in. And so I think in order to have your blog content stand out, you need to be able to have content that won't sound like it was regurgitated out of Chat GPT. So you could start with Chat GPT, like I said, to get the brain juices going, and then significantly update it, tweak it, but again, especially if you're writing for any kind of industry where they're experts, be mindful of that. If you want your content to be something that people share, that people link to, because all those things add to ranking as well.
That's interesting. And actually, I think one thing with ChatGPT, which I'm noticing more and more and more, even ChatGPT 4 rather than 3, like it's sort of got an accent to it, or it's got a voice. You can hear its voice, or at least the more you get refined to it and the more you get into it. And it's got a limit, and it's learning how to use it. Brilliant for writing structures or for fast ideas or for something. I've also found just by experimenting with my own stuff, like I could get it to write an article out, but then the amount of time it's going to take me to rewrite it to get it out of its voice into my voice, I may as well have just written it in the first place.
You may find that to be the case.
But you know what? We're only 6 months into the commercial rollout at this point, or 8 months into it. Like it's like the Gutenberg press has just been invented, and people can get their hands on books. I mean, we are early, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the with the video stuff. Like when you can actually have your avatars shoot yourself on a green screen, then that's the next thing. As a last question for now, or the big question is, what's sort of the one move that you would recommend to a client who's working on a smaller budget to market and get more business?
There ever really is like one size fits all. A big thing depends on who you're marketing to. But a key thing for me over the years has been strategic relationships and partnerships that you can leverage off of. Whether it is, creating content alongside someone else who already has a large following that you can tap into, or if you're able to sort of like ride off the wave of some other movement that's going on, and you can create content around that piece. Being really thoughtful and strategic in the kind of content you're creating and where you're targeting the content that you're making. I think if you have a small budget, experimenting with things like Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, um, Google ads, that can any strong content marketing strategy includes some type of paid advertising. If you have a little bit of budget to experiment with that, I think that's important. But and then from day one, building an email list, whether you're using something like Substack or MailChimp or HubSpot, start creating that email list, collecting names, creating content and value that people would want to that will want enough that they'll give you your email in order to get that thing. Lead magnets. Email is still something that works really well, and but coming out the gate, really having an idea of what is going to make you the signal through the noise, because there's more and more noise out
I like
there.
that phrase, the signal through the noise. And
Yeah.
actually, that was the answer. I mean, it's a big answer. You keep trying stuff, see what sticks, and use
Yep.
what's at your disposal.
Yep.
One thing I'm planning to do at some point is leave the house and actually meet people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Go out and
Forgot about this thing. Forgot
right,
about that
right,
for the
right,
years of the pandemic. I got this thing of I think it's the front door. Definitely going to use it one of these days.
right, right. Another thing is, if your small business is something that it deals with people, like maybe you own a small bakery or a cafe or a bike shop or something like that, where people physically need to come in. Excuse me. What kind of local marketing can you do? Local ads on Google, on Yelp, those kind of things. What kind of programs can you do within the community that's going to get the name of your business out there? If your business really is focused on like foot traffic, a lot of people don't think you can't use the internet and digital marketing to your advantage, even if you have a local business.
Brilliant, brilliant. And actually, with Facebook's or with Meta's rollout of just higher quality AI ads and also using their libraries, but also Google's rollout now of Performance Max, their PMax campaigns, which make things a lot easier in terms of just reaching people and getting out there, getting a better return on investment and making it easier for people. Yeah, there's ways. Ron, this has been great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you on my next trip to LA, out to the sun.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Thanks, Ron. Bye for now.
All right, bye.
Thank you for watching or listening in. Please make sure you follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and everywhere else. And if you'd like email updates about future episodes, you can sign up at freedthinking.com. I'm Marcus Freed. Keep thinking freely and stay creative. See you again. Goodbye.